Hey everyone, I'm Nick in the States, and this is Jeremy.
Hello.
Jeremy can play a fiddle just a little bit. You probably saw my video last week, but this week Jeremy and I are sitting down chilling, talking guitar, talking gear, and we thought this would be a fun one, because I haven't been around for a while, and because we haven't talked guitar in at least a few hours.
And I've never been around.
Yes, exactly. Jeremy's never been around. Jeremy's bona fides has a very nice guitar collection. His collection quadrupled since we started hanging out.
Sorry, honey.
Exactly. We actually used to work together at the same company. Talk guitar all the time. Berkeley grad.
Yep.
Played in a whole lot of bands. Done a whole lot of fun stuff.
Whole lot of places. Empty venues, big venues, full venues.
And he has a hell of a basement.
I actually have a basement. That's
exactly. Yeah. I don't even have a basement. It's like the Ferris Bueller quote. Piece of shit. I don't even have a piece of shit. I just sit here and envy yours.
I don't even own a gun, let alone mini guns.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we wanted to have this video to be kind of sitting around talking about kind of state of the industry, some of the cool things we've seen. We're going to talk a little bit about cheap guitars, talk a little bit about like the big three, Gibson, PRS, and Fender. And then we'll finish up with a little what we did on our COVID vacation. It's a spoiler alert. Both of us reallocated resources into gear, did a little bit of condensation, and kind of climbed some ladders.
Please drop a good divorce attorney in the comments, please.
Yes, exactly. And that's the point when hopefully the wives have gotten bored.
And stop watching.
And just checked out, right? Like, this is kind of the key. I think the bubble is burst.
Yeah.
I know.
Now that I'm trying to sell.
I know, me too. I waited too long. The Phil McKnight had a good video out in the last couple of days about all the different warehouses that are just filled with guitars. Like the production ramp up at the beginning of COVID when everybody rediscovering this lovely, maddening, amazing hobby that we have.
It makes me sad that all that good rosewood is going to waste in crappy guitars.
So all of it, so much of it, but it's here and it's legal. It's legal. We've got Jeremy and I kind of equidistant to a couple of really good guitar shops, and they really did really well. Through COVID, it was nice. You saw inventory come in. They were super happy. The people that working there were really engaged. And the inventory over the last few months it's coming out their ears.
You can't even walk in some stores now.
No, it's kind of nuts. And Guitar Center's done a good job of, weirdly for us, at least like our closest store. I haven't been to the downtown Boston store, but the one near us, Guitar Center's actually been the most nimble. They're not overloaded on the used stuff. They drop their used prices down quick to kind of move it out. Whereas Music Around, who's the closest to us, they kind of rode the price wave and they kind of crawled. They got more expensive. That Jeremy and I haven't bought a lot of guitars from Music Around in the last year or two.
More amplifiers.
We did get some amps. But what we did do was get, I sold some stuff through there, a couple little things here and there. But
strings, picks,
pedals, hugs. You come in, hey, what's going on? How are you guys doing?
Mark IIIs.
It's really kind of key. So we did that, but they did great business. I mean, there's a reason why the prices went up. I know they were doing awesome, and I think right now there's still some hangover. Stuff is still moving, but it's starting to just stack. And it's a weird time.
You can't even walk in the store right now.
Definitely. So it's a weird time
you can trip.
If you're in the business of music stores, right, of where you're at and where you're buying and selling. I'm going to invent a new price index, and it's called the Nice Les Paul Index. Not the custom shop, Mr. Jeremy Les Paul Index, but like a good full gloss Les Paul standard, signature T.
So everything's based off of a regular man's Les Paul.
A regular man's Les Paul. And for a while before COVID times, I was picking them off at like $1,350 at the low, to maybe $1,750, $1,800 as the high for like a 2019, 6 or 8 months old used and kind of get it. Through COVID, those kind of cranked up to like 22, 23 if it was super clean. If it had some dings and scratches and whatnot, you could get it less. And what I've seen now is I'm seeing a lot of really cool ones start to slip out the door at $1,750, $1,800.
To be fair, if you can get a Les Paul at $1,700, that's awesome.
Yes.
Like a real Les Paul with binding and everything.
If you already have some Les Pauls already, though, you don't need to buy another one for some. We'll get to that. That's a preview of what we did on our COVID holiday. We'll get to
we did a little bit of a swappy.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. Our wives stayed in their own beds. We're good there. It was just a guitar swap. It was just the gear and the toys to play with.
We won't talk money so that we don't get divorced.
Exactly. We're smart. So yeah, anyway, I worry about guitar shops right now. It does mean, though, that deals can be had. And if I know I've talked to owners of a few shops around when I've gone in and said, hey, what's your number that you got to get out of it? Because they're getting nervous and they want to profit, but they also want to free up cash, because if things really die, then they can start buying lower again, lower their baseline costs across inventory.
It's almost like a shelter. You can't let a dog stay there for 30 days. They can't let a Les Paul stay on the wall for 30 days.
No. So I guess the lesson is opportunities abound. The nice thing about the shallow end of the pool, the inexpensive, the Harley Bentons, the used Epiphones, the Squire Classic Vibes, there's not a lot to go up and go down there. I think the low end, though, we've seen Mexican Strats there are $600 used, $650, which used to
What they sold for.
See all the gray in the beard?
I've been trying to pluck mine, but
I would have none.
I don't have the time anymore, so I have to just accept the fact I'm going George Clooney.
It's the way it is. So you're starting to see that there, but the good thing is a lot of these other guitars are still value. They may flex a little bit, but you're talking $20, $30, $50. $100 of a big swing, so it's not horrible if you bought high and now you're sitting on it. But I guess the point is opportunities are coming. If you happen to be flush, or if you've got some other things that you can move and combine to kind of climb the ladder up or get into a piece that you always dreamed about. The next little very interesting thing. So a few years ago, 2017, so 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago at this point.
God.
We had a lot of fun buying 2015 and 2016 Gibsons from Thomann, because Germany doesn't have minimum advertised price rules. So
Great
they were
chocolate,
able to,
though.
Great chocolate.
And watches.
Yep. And we'll leave it there, because we can make German jokes, but it hurts. Depending on if you go... Never mind. We won't go bedroom jokes, and we won't go mid-1900s jokes. Moving along, we're all fine here. We're all friends. It's good.
I love Germany. I don't know what he's talking about. Thank you, Anna, Basti, my managers.
But in 2017, me, my buddy Danny, and a few other people made really big runs because they were blowing out the unsuccessful 2015s and 16s. So they were sitting on them in 2017. Once again, they don't want it sitting on the wall rotting.
Yep.
They started blowing them out, and we were buying...
Especially if it's a Fender, because then the necks just go like this.
Exactly. And they grow real stabby frets.
Ow!
Yeah.
Ow!
It's a lot of work for Hans and Franz to go and clean up the frets every 6 months on the
But
things.
we'll talk about Fender later.
Exactly. We're getting traditionals, which were full gloss, bound neck, all the automagical crap, for between $10.50 and $11.50. We got standards, I think, around $1,600, and it was awesome deals. They had the cool gold cases. Then you just rip the other crap off, put some Grovers on it, put a tusk nut in it to replace the piece of crap brass thing. And they were really good.
And a nice Tone Pros bridge.
But one of the things that helped then is that the dollar was $1.06 to the euro. So it was a really good exchange rate. Usually it's like $1.15 to $1.25. So like your dollar was worth more, we could buy even more. It worked out well to time with it. Right now the dollar's worth more than the euro. So
Stop the presses.
yeah, that hasn't happened since I've been in the guitar world, since I've been globally minded.
Isn't it almost the same as the pound right now?
It's very close. I think it's like $1.07 or $1.08 to the pound.
Which is literally the first time in my lifetime.
It's usually $1.40, $1.35.
Where's Chappers?
Well, the new prime minister's had some interesting fiscal policy stuff that they walk back, and
the king has problem with pens, apparently.
And we're not going to talk about Brexit. Anyway, moving on. So now Gibson's new agreement with Thomann, because Thomann was going to leave and Gibson wanted to fire him. My understanding, allegedly, all conjecture here. Their new agreement is that they're not allowed to sell to the U.S. out of Thomann. But the sell your Harley Benton, and with the current exchange rates, the Harley Bentons are actually really good prices right now. So it's a good spot to look there. It's also strong against in Japan. And so I've bought a few things from Japan recently that have come in and been really good prices too, to kind of nail some stuff. Here's your friendly neighborhood reminder that Edwards makes amazing Les Paul inspired guitars.
There's one literally about 4 feet from Nick's shoulder.
And you probably saw it on my channel about 5 years ago. I brought it to Jeremy, and Jeremy's like, oh no, Jeremy's a custom shop Gibson guy. He has some really nice PRS stuff. And he's like, yeah, but those cheap things. I'm like, oh, it's from Japan, sorry. He's like, no. And then he played, he's like, oh.
I also love ESP.
Yeah.
So finding out that Edwards was an ESP didn't hurt. But it plays as good as my 57 Gold Top Custom.
Yep.
No lie.
The Seth Lovers in it didn't
That didn't hurt either. I may have put those in my 57 Les Paul Custom too.
So there's a lot of neat stuff there. I'm going to take a look in the next couple weeks to try and find some deals and bring up on the channel as I hunt through and obsessively look at guitar stuff like we always do, like we all do.
I got a text message from you once a week of, look what I found!
Yeah, try this. And Jeremy's like, I'm broke. Hey, I'm still broke. Hey, I'm still broke. Hey, I have money. I'm broke again now. Thanks from that last one. Like, I just got to get the wave at the right point. It's everybody has those friends. And all of my friends suddenly have too many guitars. And that's...
And our fun funds are...
Yes. But, it's better than having a boat or a drug problem.
Truth. I've never had to clean a barnacle off my guitar or
It's a bad day.
brush off.
For that, also, our thoughts go out to the people of Florida with the latest hurricane, because some people might be cleaning stuff out of their guitars, and really miserable. And our thought goes to the Ukraine, because guitars are the last thing that they're worried about there, and everywhere else where things are just...
Heartbreaking everywhere. My God.
It's not a lot of fun. Gibson, PRS, and Fender. Gibson seems to be doing better.
I think they are killing it with some of their recent releases. I love the fact that they went back to what made them successful. They've got all that ad campaign right now about, bringing back the real Les Paul, the 60s neck, the Bumblebee capacitors, the Clouson tuners. I really love the push of that traditional Les Paul, and then the custom shop stuff they're launching, from the Adam Jones Reverse V, the Slash collection. They just released a Kirk Hammett Greenie for $50,000.
They did, and they released a Rick Beato double cut,
which is
special, which
awesome.
is really sweet. And Rick's awesome. It's really cool.
I just think they are apps. I mean, I was worried Gibson would be gone a few years ago, but I think the new leadership has come in. They're making the right decisions. They're launching great models. I have faith in Gibson again. The only thing that kind of, and I'm not super comfortable with it, is the whole purchase of Mesa Boogie. I've been a Boogie fan my whole life. I think it's a great feather in Gibson's cap, and now they can really pair up Les Pauls and Mesa Boogies together.
It's a gap they've never had. I mean, Gibson in the 50s had some amps that were cool, but Fender trounced them, and they kind of gave up. And they've yet to have a really great amp in any of their modern era.
I just don't want anything to happen. I mean, I don't want anything to happen to my Gibson, but I also don't want anything to happen to my Mesa Boogie. I mean, Randall Smith has created an amazing company, brought it up from the start, and just done everything right with that company from day one. Gibson has not done the same thing the last 30 years, but they're doing better. So fingers crossed. Everyone now selling their Mesa Boogies for pre-Gibson prices are crazy, but Gibson's made the right moves. They got rid of some bad debt. They've got some great models. I think they're definitely going in the right direction.
And I think their heart's in the right place, right? They had some stumbles when the new ownership came in initially.
Of course.
And that happens. But it seems like they've kind of settled in and focused on what's core and true to the Gibson line.
The bottom line is they're making great guitars again.
And so, where's this? We're more of a value guitar channel, so maybe not everyone's looking at a brand new $2,700 Gibson.
But there is value in the studios now, which there wasn't a few years ago.
They're also treating Epiphone as a living brand and not an also-ran.
Oh yeah, some of those new Epiphone models are awesome.
Yep. And so I think that's where you're seeing that's coming down. And so the weird thing in the used market, it's all about value, is I'm starting to see some 2019, 2020, and 2021 used Epis that are really nice. And they're being traded on the used market by unknowing people at the same price that a 10-year-older standard would sell at. And so at the $500 range, $450, somewhere in that range, $400. If you can find one of those, they're amazing.
I have one acoustic guitar, and it's an Epiphone Hummingbird. One. And that thing is awesome. It sounds fantastic. The build quality, made in China, build quality, fantastic.
And then one last thing on the Gibson is that they're true to vintage spec standard runs of the Les Paul Junior and the Les Paul Special. How they've set them up I love both of them to the point that I bought a brand new Special from a guitar shop.
That little guy right there?
The little guy, different one. That's actually Harley Benton.
What?
Yeah. My two pickup Special I bought from Walt Grace Vintage in Miami, which is, fortunately or unfortunately, 90-second walk from one of my company's offices.
Fortunately.
It was
and you can shop for guitars while you sit in Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches.
Yes, I'll put a picture up. It's a gorgeous shop, and it was an $1,800 lunch break. So,
and the owner has an incredible private collection.
Yeah, and they're all good in his coffee shop. It's great. But anyway, so those two coming in at the $1,200 or $1,300 and at the $1,800. Which means at the used, you're back around a grand $1,100 for a used modern era Junior, and then $1,450, $1,400 for a Special. I know they're expensive, but everything's gotten more expensive at the moment. They're really great, and everyone needs to enjoy the magic of P90s. I think Jeremy's got my Les Paul Standard with two P90s and hanging out here. And
I was just I'm like, no, it has to be humbuckers. It just, I can't do it.
The noise. I gig. I'm high gain. I can't do the noise.
But I plugged it into a reason, because I play a lot of high gain. But I plugged it into a JCM 800, and it just sounded like everything I loved from the 90s.
Yep.
It was awesome.
It's wonderful, and we'll have some fun with that stuff soon on the channel too. Jeremy and I are gonna be hanging out on the channel a bit, which will be really cool. So the Fender, in all honesty, I haven't been paying attention to Fender very much lately. Squires are awesome. There's some really cool stuff. All the Parallel Universe stuff is really neat. There's a humbucker, single coil, blue to white fade that I'll put a picture of that I have sat there saying, what can I get $800 for? How much blood is $800? Because I would like just that color palette. It looks really cool. But I haven't seen a ton that has really jumped out at me, but they're trucking along.
I'm going to say this. I think the periphery brands of Fender, they are just absolutely taking off. Jackson, Charvel, EVH brand are awesome. They're making fantastic guitars. Little fretwork issues here or there, but that can be expected, especially for small houses. I've got two beautiful Jackson Adrian Smith guitars I play in my Iron Maiden tribute band. I've got the Charvel Jake E. Lee. They're absolutely fantastic guitars, and picking up any EVH amp or guitar is just absolutely fantastic. I still find issues with the regular Fenders, though. Predominantly, it's the neck.
It's either needs to adjust the hell out of it. The fret ends, depending on how long it's been sitting on the floor.
Yep.
We're in the Northeast where everything changes up and down, so necks feel like crap if they're not dealt with. But yeah, I kind of agree. And I think I guess maybe Gibson's doing the same thing too, right? It's they've boiled down their core to what they do and what they do well.
Yep.
They've elevated their Mexican models to really be thought of as the lower end American these days, where they're really kind of blurring it so the word American isn't in it as much, or Mexican. It's played more in between. But I think you're right. They're feeding the rest of their ecosystem and making sure that those brands are really delivering. I mean, the Jackson that you have is amazing, and coming out of the same factory, same stuff, right?
Yep.
It's a really solid, cool story there.
And I'll say this: I mean, Fenders, going to the expensive side, the custom shop stuff that they've been coming out with, the Master Built series, some of those guitars, especially the relic ones, are absolutely phenomenal.
I just can't spend $4,000 on a bolt neck, and I know it's me.
No,
I know it's me. But you're like, it's a name. It's just the.
But
parts.
you know what Nick won't say is that most of the good Fenders we have aren't real Fenders.
We built them the last year.
They're parts casters that we put together, and they're awesome guitars.
Yep. And that's what's so great about it. And there's a wealth of community out there that are doing it. And Fender, it's smart. They have the mod shop now, so you can go and actually buy a body, a neck, a guard, everything that, and put it together with real Fender parts instead of going the classic Mighty Might or Warmouth or whoever else you're going to go to.
I will say, I think Fender is in a rough financial shape because they're a little bit what Gibson was before they got taken over by new leadership, where they have bought a lot and they do have a lot of debt. So I do kind of wonder what's going to happen to Fender
Especially
in the
with
next
the
5 years.
right now.
Yeah, I mean, the periphery brands, I think, are really going to Fender adjacent, if you will.
Yes.
I think those brands are... I'm not saying they're going to carry Fender, because Fender will sell more amplifiers than anybody on the face of the earth, and they'll be fine. But I do feel that a lot of guitar players that I know are picking the Jacksons, the Charvels, and the EVHs before they're picking up a Fender Stratocaster.
So, speaking of Fender, PRS continues to kill it with a John Mayer model.
Jesus.
It was easy. It's right there to pick as a transition to go there. Come on, you have to take the shot.
This is where I'll say something bad.
Now with an SE though, and I played one of the Mexican. They're Indonesian.
The SEs are
Indo.
Some of them are Korean, some of them are Indonesian, some of them are China now.
Yeah, I think they're Indo. Anyway, I played one of the import SE John Mayers, and it was fantastic. It was a really good guitar.
I will say this: the John Mayer guitars are. I played a Silver Sky, and I put it next to one of my... I was at a shop, and they put it next to a vintage Stratocaster, and it sounded as good and played better than the vintage Stratocaster. The Silver... I'm not a John Mayer fan. Went to school with him. Long story. But that guitar is the best Stratocaster you will play. Yeah. I mean, and I know that it kind of like... Paul doesn't want to make other people's guitars. He wants to make Paul Reed Smiths. He wants
But
these.
he wants to keep the lights on.
But he wants to keep the lights on.
Best-selling guitar
And
they've ever had.
that guitar is keeping the lights on, and it's a phenomenal guitar.
Out of their non-CE line, I think it's probably their least expensive guitar to produce too. And even some of their CEs, it's still probably a less expensive guitar for them to make.
Oh yeah, and also let's keep in mind the biggest problem most people have with Stratocasters is keeping it in tune, especially if you're using the trem.
Yep.
It has a PRS built bridge; it stays in tune.
They've been figuring that out for years.
Dive bomb it like a Floyd Rose, and that thing stays in tune. And so it's the perfect Strat.
Yep.
With the PRS headstock.
Exactly, which is really cool. What we did during COVID, I'll start. I developed a really bad addiction so I sold some guitars. I sold some low ones. I sold one or two higher end ones. Early in COVID, I bought a Gibson R9 because everyone needs an R9, and I actually sold Jeremy the Cherry Sunburst Les Paul that I bought at a killer deal. And then I missed my Cherry Sunburst Les Paul, and I ended up selling Jeremy the R9, the 59 reissue.
The most interesting text message ever. So I really miss Cherry, and I kind of want it back. And I was like, oh man, I've always wanted a Sunburst Les Paul. I'm like, oh man, he's my buddy. I'm gonna give it back to him, but I'm gonna miss having Sunburst. And then he ended it with, I'll trade you the R9 and cash considerations. I'm like, sold, because I loved that R9.
Yeah. And so now I'm staring at it right now in front of us. So he's got the R9. It's a beautiful guitar, and I get that Cherry Sunburst Les Paul back. And
We're both happy.
And then I decided I wanted a Slash Licking one, and then I decided I wanted a Tobacco Sunburst one, and then I decided anyway. I went a little off the deep end there. I also was doing some consulting work. I had a little extra money. We couldn't go on vacations.
How many Les Pauls did you pick up during COVID? Just give a number. That's a good number.
Somewhere in a lot. So the other thing, so for me at least, that was the lone obsession or the main obsession. But I also decided that I really, really wanted a good Telly and a good Strat that was a classic one. I have a bunch of Tellys that I had built, but I wanted to build a really nice one, and I got obsessed with a pine body Telecaster. And so I found a company, No Moon Laser, on eBay that had a really cool butterscotch thin, it's not even really glossy, and it looked like it was going to just age rapidly. So I bought one of those. I found a company that does aged all parts necks with enough tasteful aging and I found the right all parts neck shape, which was huge, and the right radius for me. So then I built a Telecaster, and then I built a Barncaster version from the same guy to go with it to have at my office. And then I built out a really nice aged MJT body Strat neck from that same company that does the
like a bourbon burst, right?
It's like a bourbon burst. It's a two-tone, but it's not like a 52, 53 two-tone. It's like a little darker, a little smokier whiskey. I think they called it a whiskey burst or whiskey
it has like
something.
A little hint of red in the brown.
So it's really cool. I can put a picture up right here too. And so I got that as well. And they became like the core guitars that Unplugged I'd play, and they're just super resin. All of them have either nitro or really, really thin finishes. So, and that's what a lot of my COVID times was, obsessing about Les Pauls, collecting them like a hoarder, but playing these 3-parts casters that I built for the most part. And that's been my last couple of years. It's been kind of neat. What about yours?
I tripled my guitar collection. So COVID, not commuting to work every day. Plus, my wife had a very solid year last year, as did I. And there's a lot of guitars that when times were tough, I had to get rid of. So when we had a little bit of money again, I kind of went hog wild. I got your 59 Les Paul. I got my Zakk Wylde back. Mm-hmm. I got my ESP KH2 back.
Yep.
I bought my dream Ibanez John Petrucci, which we'll see in another later video, back. Yep. I got all these unbelievable guitars. I think I collected like 5 or 6 ESPs.
Yeah, you want ESP Wild. I'm not the biggest ESP fan, and Jeremy really is. If you'd like to see ESP content, let us know. We have a few really choice pieces to show you.
But I grabbed the 2 Jackson Adrian Smiths. I grabbed the Charvel Jakey Lee. Mm-hmm. Like I said, 5, 6, 7 ESPs.
Oh, and because Jeremy still deserves to be here, he picked up 2 different Chinese copies of famous guitars too.
Yes.
And then in one situation, then bought the real version.
It was funny because I really wanted the guitar, like this specific guitar. When I was touring back in the old days, my other guitar player had this exact guitar, and I saw the Chinese copy, so I bought it. And like literally 2 or 3 days later, I made a deal to get a real one. I was like, well, now I have the Chinese one and the real one.
Yep. So, anyway, we're going to do a video on that too, coming up. Probably shoot it tonight. You'll see it another time, but it's there. So yeah, we've had fun. You also bought, so my Uncle Jeff, Uncle Funky, I think he was on a video a couple years ago, some people might remember it. He passed away from cancer. It was really lousy. So I had to go and help sell 70 guitars out of his collection. And what was really cool, so the other thing I did during COVID was I found homes for that. And a big chunk went through a dealer and went out that way. But like before...
Some of it ended up here.
Before it went to a dealer, pieces went to... My friend Danny, you've seen the channel, has one. Jeremy has at least one, if not two. I've got a couple. My father-in-law has some. His brother has one. Another one of my really good friends has one. And we just kept placing these guitars and finding the right combination of whether it was an Explorer, it was a V, it was a 70 Strat, it was a 335, it was a 135, and it was... So it was really... It was helping to go through a grieving process of then finding these little homes of the guitars, and then people will send me pictures, and I get to visit them later. And every one of them, I'm like, when you go to sell it, I get to buy it first. You know, and I've gotten one of those calls already, and then the person changed their mind, which was cool. But it's like, I think I'm going to sell the Explorer. I'm like, okay, done. I'm like, I don't have $1,200 today, but let me figure out how to get $1,200.
Next weekend, your uncle's Marshall JCM 900 and 4x12 cabinet will be played by the original Iron Maiden guitarist, Dennis Stratton.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, the other thing, they were amps. So Jeremy bought a couple of the amps. So the funny thing is, my uncle's favorite gigging amp was a JCM 900. Favorite practice amp was a JCM 900. His favorite gigging amp was a JTM 30. So I have his JTM 30. And Jeremy has JTM my 30. Old JTM 30. But he also has Jeff's, somewhere around here, JCM 900, which was Jeff's practice amp, which is a really magical 900.
It's the best 900 I've ever played.
It is just killer. So it's cool. Anyway, so that's the other thing I did was find homes for this stuff. And it's just really neat. And Jeff would be happy to know the people that had it, you know, and that they're still going. A bunch of his friends got some too. And I had ones that later his friends called me up like, hey, I need a junior. I'm like, I have a junior right away. You want it?
Would he find it cool that the guy from Iron Maiden's going to play his
Yeah, he would. He'd think that was cool as shit. He would have driven up for that one. If you grew up on Cape Cod looks like this, comes out of Massachusetts. There's a little canal that we put here, and that canal is like a magical force field that nobody goes through that lives on the Cape. Once you escape, it's cool. You can traverse it back and forth, but if you live there for too long, it becomes a scary wall. And he's like, you go up to my house. I am like...
Especially if you're afraid of bridges.
Yeah, it's true. I am one highway to a main, like, Route X, and then it's one turn in my house. And he's like, I hate this. This is just crazy. All these stoplights and things. I can't do this. I'm like, you didn't even have to. We're easy. Anyway, so he would definitely have shown up to do that. With that, though, we've talked longer than I expected on this little video. This was our warm-up to see how our chemistry was. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this sort of stuff. And we'll have plenty more. But I've been Nick.
I've been Jeremy.
And stick with the space. Thanks for letting us join our issues with you.